Good afternoon, everyone. I'm calling the Cannabis Control Authority Board Directors meeting to order at 1:01 p.m. And our first order of business is determination of a quorum. We do have all members present, so we do have a quorum to conduct business. And next, we'll have an approval of the agenda. I hope everyone had a chance to look at our agenda today. Any questions from the board on our agenda today? Okay, with no questions, motion to approve our agenda. Do I have a second? All in favor? All opposed? Okay, next we'll have our approval of our previous minutes. The meeting was conducted on March 26th. If everyone had a chance to review the minutes, do I have any questions reference our minutes, first of all? Okay, with no questions of our minutes, do I have a motion to approve our last meeting's minutes of March 26th? Motion to approve? Do I have a second? Sorry. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay. And next, we're going to have our medical cannabis program update, and Isaac will be our presenter. Hi, Isaac.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Isaac Wright, the Medical Cannabis Program Manager here at the CCA. Public too. I'd first like to say that we appreciate the board's guidance and overall support at the CCA and at the MCP in particular. The MCP. So for today, I'm just going to first share some basic program updates regarding communication with licensees, with current system implementation, different inquiries we get from the public, registered products, brief report on website activity, and then I'll turn it over to Hannah to talk about the medical cannabis program practitioner survey. So just with licensee communications, and I think licensees will recognize this by now, but we've basically tried to formalize the way that we communicate with them, and we've implemented using the same program we use for the website, which is Squarespace, basically a way that we can shoot industry bulletins out and regulatory updates, general emails through this, and then also post some of that information on the website under the pharmaceutical processor section. This enables processors, especially once they start to build up, they'll be able to access information from the website. And it will also get pushed out to them through email so they know to look there as well. We can sort that into groups so we can target it as appropriate to whoever should be getting it. The next, for systems implementation, I wanted to talk about these two just because we've spent so much of our time working with these. Basically, the two are the seed to sale system and the CCA portal or the MCP portal. Basically, we spent a lot of time on these over the past few months, of course, trying to get them customized to our specifications. I'd like to thank Jared. We've worked on this a lot, and for Sean and Jamie for their support with decision-making and guidance along the way. But basically, every processor already has some kind of tracking system that they use internally. This provides something that we can have access to that we can provide overall. I see the state as a overall and view all the information in one place. That's of course for compliance purposes. That also enables easier recalls, which we haven't had yet, but there will be one at some point, and we'll be able to handle it much more effectively using a system like this. It's once a plant reaches like 8 inches tall, it's tracked by RFID tags. It's actually really cool. You can scan sections of plants with a handheld scanner, and it captures all the RFID tags in that area. It's all transfers of cannabis from different stages within one facility to other facilities, and it disposal, everything. It tracks it along the way. And of course, the biggest purpose for that is accountability and preventing diversion, which is a big deal. So the next one is the CCA portal. And these are just brief introductions just to allow people to hear about them too. I know that y'all know about them, but the CCA portal is going to handle what 3 other systems are currently handling. So that's everything related to patients, to facility licensing, and product registration. The patient portal is scheduled to go live on July 30th. So we've been working very diligently on trying to make that happen. The certification process will be similar to the way it is now, with some differences in the way that information is accessed. The practitioner is still going to complete the certification portal. Patient's going to get an email. Through a more rigorous verification process, they'll be able to access that certification from the email. They don't need to create a full portal account, I guess, for unless they need to make some kind of change to their certification, which they can do through the portal. The certification that we've been working on is going to look a lot better than the current one. I'm really excited for y'all to see it when we can share it. And it's also a much more secure process. The certification will have a barcode and a QR code on it. The barcode basically is going to hold all the information that's on that certification itself. The QR code is going to be an easy way to verify whether it's valid. So if the card were invalidated for any reason, it would register as invalid when the QR code was scanned. So as I stated, it's also going to be used for, in the future, product registrations and licensing as far as new permit applications and maintaining existing permits. I can't offer a go live date on that yet, but it's not weeks, it's months out as far as that goes. So you may have recognized this from other PMP data, just unique patients and dispensations. Basically, a unique patient is a single patient that visits the dispensary and makes a purchase during a certain period of time. A dispensation is one product that's sold to that patient. So one patient purchases 5 products. That's 5 dispensations for the one patient. This is from the PMP, so the Prescription Monitoring Program, which is under the Department of Health Professions. So this isn't we don't own this data. And the dispensing pharmacist is responsible for ensuring that information gets logged into the PMP whenever they make a dispensation, which is mostly automatic through their point of sale process. For 2023, there were 98,396 unique patients, and for 2024, there were 104,840. So there's a 6,000 or 7,000 increase from 2023 to 2024. And since January of 2024, there's been an average of 7 dispensations per patient per month. So that's each patient that has a certification makes a purchase, average is 7. The lowest monthly average is 6.5, the highest is 7.7. So that's a pretty tight spread as far as number of products per month for patients.
As a question on that,
Yes,
please.
sir.
So dispensation, is that, how many servings is that? How do you look at that?
That's one of the things that's imperfect about that number, is that it doesn't say that information exactly. It could be, it doesn't matter what the package size is, it's a single product. So it's an idea, but not a perfect number as far as determining how much is purchased. That's a great example of where the seed to sale system will provide a lot more information as far as that goes, and more granular, so you can.
And remind me, is there a limit on how much somebody can purchase at a time?
There's a limit for flour, but there's not a limit typically for oil products. The language basically states that the 90-day supply, which is what a patient can get at any given time, except the 30-day supply for flour, is determined by the dispensing pharmacist and the practitioner. Effectively, it's often the dispensing pharmacist making that decision at dispensation. So, but they can't go in and purchase 12 ounces of flour at one time. It's a 30-day limit for each 4 ounces.
So you feel that with the seed to sale system, you're going to get more data around this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we're most looking forward to.
Okay, great.
So,
Thank you.
just to better understand the market as a whole. So, great question. Thank you. If there are any others, please feel free to ask. Medical practitioners in the portal. Did I skip one? Go back one. I skipped one with your question. So thank you though. The written certification. So most written certifications are completed by practitioners in the current portal. And we have not officially invalidated all paper certifications because we wanted to be absolutely certain that the system worked well enough to say that we can stop paper certifications. We never reached that comfort level, and so we've never not allowed them. So, but this is the number that are in the portal. The number that have been outside of the portal have steadily decreased over the past 12 months. Let's see, a year ago, there were about 1,500 certs uploaded each month that were paper. The past few months, there have been 400 each month. So it's dropped pretty significantly over the months. And by this point, we are starting to see certifications that are being reissued through the portal to the same patient, which is why the numbers start to even out as the months go on. So for example, there were 8,616 certifications issued in April of this year, but a fair number of those were issued to the same patient from last year. So, all right. Thank you. So medical practitioners, this is the number of medical practitioners in the portal currently. And you can see it's a slow gradual rise since we've been keeping track of it. So currently 1,503. Most practitioners that use the portal end up, appreciating the benefits that it offers. The updated one is going to provide more benefits, and it's going to be much more of a secure process than the current system. So registrations, of course, are not required for patients, and they are only necessary for register agents if they're not included on the certification by the practitioner. Same for parents, like if the practitioner only put one parent on the certification, if another one wanted to pick up cannabis for the child, they would have to register with us in order to get added. So registrations have been going way down as the months go on. The only reason, or one of the only reasons we hear about it being a benefit is for patients traveling out of state who say that the other state wants to see a registration instead of just the certification. But that's kind of we don't have reciprocal agreements with other states coming here, and we haven't formally done that anywhere else either. So that's just the other state choosing to recognize that registration, but not the certification by itself. So now going on to, this is kind of the kind of customer service or public service part of what my team does. So these are just inquiries that we're getting from the public as far as assistance that they need with some issue. So this gives us not just the contact methods, but the total per month from phone and email. I'm interested to see how this turns out for May, because there was a pretty steep from this year. I don't know, but we're holding pretty steady otherwise, and there's we have a big focus on providing good service to the public for my team and kind of being patient first. This is I think that's reflected in our response time to issues that come in. So basically the median response time, resolution speed for an email coming in, not phone, because those are handled over the phone. Response time and resolution is, less than an hour, with an average getting dragged up by a few more complicated situations, up to 2.72. So these are the most common inquiries that we've used as far as like canned responses. I know canned responses are necessary, but they drive me a little crazy when I get a canned response from somebody. And it's really important to me that we answer the actual question that's asked, if they ask it, and not just send them something canned that sounds impersonal. But generally, and some of these overlap, but there's probably 330 related to a patient not being able to find their certification email. And that just typically it's gone to their junk mail and we tell them how to find it, or we resend it if they really can't find it. You can see some of the other ones that we get, but product registrations. So that's
one question, reference
Yes,
that the digital card,
Mhm.
is that going to be more available again when the portal is set up?
Yes, we will have a digital card of it. There is one now.
Okay.
It does not work perfectly in conjunction with the certification in every way, but the new one is going to be much more of a card format and it's going to look much more
Very good.
very legit.
And then that helps law enforcement on,
It
you
will.
know, when they
Yeah.
have a stop and someone's a medical cannabis card holder.
Yes, it'll look much more legitimate when they.
Great,
see that,
fantastic.
so.
Thank you.
Sure thing. So these are product registrations over the past 12 months. You know, the total is 1,766. The vast number of those are flower products at 63%, followed by vape and edibles. However, I know it sounds like a lot, and I'm not saying it isn't, but it's not as quite as high as it seems because individual products of different quantities of the same product are registered separately. So it might be like one type of flower, but it's registered as 5 different products because it's different quantities. So we also have, you see some processors produce more specialized medicinal cannabis products like the topicals or suppositories, things like that for patients who need them. And then last of all, just kind of a overview of the website visits, just the attention and tracking that we're getting to the website. It's been pretty steady since October. You saw a drop in the visits to the cannabis homepage, September to October. There have been some changes to the website, but we also feel like people are just getting more used to navigating it and know to get exactly where they want to go without having to go through the main part of the page first. So that is pretty much it for me. Do you have any other questions on anything I went over today?
Any questions for Isaac from the board? Great presentation. Thank you, Isaac.
Thank you. And thank you again for your time and attention. And I'll hand it over to.
And we'll have Hannah next with the MCP practitioner survey.
Board members, just making sure it's on. I'm Hannah, the data and research analyst here at the CCA. So, oh, I should click one more. I got 2 intro slides for you. So today I'm going to be going over the results of the practitioner survey that I briefed you on at one of the last board meetings. And just as a reminder that this survey was born out of the 2024 Medical Cannabis Program Patient Satisfaction Survey. As you may remember, the results of that survey influenced 6 recommendations, and one of those was to create a practitioner version of the survey to kind of get a more holistic view of all participants within the program, what they're experiencing. And obviously, there will be different questions in here, but that's just a little background on our survey. Okay, and again, sorry, the whole thing is falling. Did I push it or something? I think I got it. Sorry, my screen was falling down. So again, the purpose just to assess how the Virginia Medical Cannabis Program is serving practitioners who issue written certifications to patients for medical cannabis use. So the survey captured patterns of issuing written certifications, the perceived medical cannabis benefits to patients, sources for medical cannabis information, opinions on policies and training, and overall satisfaction. Okay. So the survey was conducted through an online survey from February 11th to March 14th of this year. 274 practitioners participated in the survey, and I just did some quick math based off of Isaac's slide. So in February, we had 1,420, so 1,420 practitioners within BioTrack, and we got 274, which is about 19%, which is a pretty good response rate for a self-selected survey. And we took that data and we formatted, programmed, and implemented the questionnaire using Qualtrics, and we did analysis through Qualtrics, Excel, and Tableau. And for recruitment, responses were anonymous and self-reported, and respondents were not financially compensated for participating in the survey. And we distributed the survey through BioTrack, which is the MCP's written certification portal, which Isaac touched on a little bit. So we used the email blast function within BioTrack, so we only reached practitioners that were currently enrolled within the portal. And we also promoted the survey through email using 3 timed reminders throughout the duration of the survey being open. So I may have mentioned before about demographics and sampling. So demographics within this survey is not going to be a representative sample of Virginia, as it was, again, self-selected or just a sample of practitioners, because there's no required registration or database to pull from to get those metrics to line up. And since it's just practitioners, we didn't try to replicate or reflect the natural or the current demographic layout of just Virginia's population as a whole. So this is just some high level demographics I'm going to run through real quick, and full demographics are going to be within the report that's on our website. So 62% of practitioners that were in the survey were between 40 to 59 years old. About 2/3 identified as women, a majority identified as white, and all health service areas were represented by the survey sample. So we asked practitioners where their current place of or where they practice within Virginia, and we mapped it out in the health service areas. And I thought one thing was sort of funny. We realized later there's no orange on the map, which is health service area 2, but that's because every city or county in health service area 2 was represented in the sample, which is very interesting. It's right there at the top right. Should be orange, but everyone responded in that area. So since the launch of the medical program, it seems that practitioner participation is increasing. So we saw that 67 of practitioners have certified for 1 to 4 years. And we're also observing that the program seems to still be attracting new practitioners to participate in the program, with 15% of respondents saying that they've certified for medical cannabis under 1 year. So this slide is going to cover a little bit about program participation and what practitioners are experiencing and a little bit more of their own background. So the majority of respondents who certify patients for medical cannabis indicated that they were either an advanced practice registered nurse or a practitioner of medicine. And again, according to Virginia code, only the top 4 are eligible to certify medical cannabis use in Virginia. So you have to be a practitioner of medicine, a practitioner of osteopathy, which is licensed by the Board of Medicine, or a physician assistant licensed by the Board of Medicine, or an advanced practice registered nurse jointly licensed by the Board of Medicine or Board of Nursing in order to provide written certifications in the state of Virginia. And we also asked practitioner again where their general place of practice is, and 92% reported that their practice is within Virginia, so in state. And in the past year, 93% of practitioners reported that they've certified less than 500 patients. 60% of practitioners reported certifying less than 25 patients. And that remaining 7% as an outlier reported certifying 500 or more patients within a year. Okay. So moving on to practitioners' experience within written certifications and written certification appointments. So Virginia law doesn't specify medical conditions that would qualify patients for the use of medical cannabis. Practitioners use their own discretion when deciding whether a patient's condition would benefit from the use of medical cannabis. And MCP practitioners recommend medical cannabis for many symptoms or conditions for their patients. Highlighted here is going to be the top 10 health conditions reported by survey respondents. And practitioners most reported certifying medical cannabis for pain. So this includes chronic pain, non-cancer pain, or as an alternative to opioids for pain and anxiety. And combined, these account for about 52% of all reported condition practitioners reported using certified or reported certifying medical cannabis use for. So pain and anxiety being the most common that patients seem to be benefiting from their practitioners for. Okay. And before patients, again, can access medical cannabis, they have to get that written certification from a practitioner. So we asked more information from practitioners in the survey about their own experience with appointments. This is something similar to what we did in the patient survey, asking about appointment experience. But within the practitioners, 43% indicated that their visits took place in person at an office, And in contrast, you probably don't remember this, but the 2024 MCP patient survey, only 12% of patients reported their appointment as being in person. So a little bit of a difference there by about 30%. But about half of practitioners reported the average length of time for a written certification appointment as between 15 to 30 minutes at 55%. And the 2024 MCP patient survey, actually 50% of patients reported that their times are 15 to 30 minutes. So that aligns pretty well right there. And we also ask practitioners about what a written certification appointment cost at their practice or what they charge. So we did not differentiate between copays. This is just a general full cost. It was less than $100. Okay. And again, this one may look familiar. So this is where our Virginia Administrative Code stating that a practitioner needs to complete certain requirements prior to issuing a medical cannabis written certification. And these requirements are outlined in question form on the left of this chart. And so when asked how often they complete these requirements, nearly all practitioners, so 99%, express that they always ask questions about their patient's medical and prescription and current medical condition history. And 91% reported that they do explain potential risk and benefits of medical cannabis products to patients. So again, although these are requirements, Virginia Code has stated only 10% of practitioners reported never giving patients instructions for use of medical cannabis products and never providing patients with a diagnosis of their condition or symptoms. And I did just want to note again that results like these that are required, it could be due to recall bias, so practitioners maybe not remembering that they provided this information during an appointment. And another note that practitioners who don't meet the requirements may just not be aware of the requirements. These results kind of reflect needing more practitioner education to help increase the percentage of practitioners that actually comply with these regulations.
As to why the legislators use the language should instead of shall. Anybody can answer that may know.
Well, one, I'll point out this is from our regulatory language, so that would be on us. Also, I don't have it directly in front of me. It might be shall in the
It
regulation.
might be shall. We could have used should for the means of the presentation.
It should be shall, but double check that, Sean.
Okay, great. So, of course,
If it is, assuming that it is shall, are there regulations that deal with persons who don't follow?
During the most recent rulemaking session, we added additional language around the written certification piece that we could take action to limit access to the system that we use because they're supposed to use our form, which will include in the system certifying that they follow these requirements. And so it would be potentially something that we could, if it was egregious, follow up on.
Okay.
all good. Okay. So we just covered what is required to happen during a written certification appointment. And now we're going to kind of move on to dosing and product recommendations. So this isn't required, but MCP practitioners can provide dosage and product recommendations to their patients after being certified for medical cannabis. But survey practitioners expressed a range of comfort with providing these recommendations. So 36% reported feeling not at all or not very comfortable in providing dosing and product recommendations. And then 62% of practitioners indicated that they always defer to a dispensary pharmacist for patients' dosing and product recommendations. And again, just one final nod to the patient survey, although that question wasn't exactly asked, 51% of patients reported that they primarily get information about medical cannabis products from the pharmacist on duty at dispensaries. So, and again, these findings point to the need for just additional educational resources so we can bridge a gap between practitioner and patient care. So this next survey section is going to capture practitioners' perspectives on the efficacy of medical cannabis for treating their patients. So in this chart, practitioners shared their perspectives on how cannabis affects their patients' overall health. At 85%, a majority of practitioners indicated that they believe that medical cannabis improved their patients' quality of life and their diagnosed medical conditions or symptoms. And 73% indicated that medical cannabis has reduced their patients' need for prescription drugs for pain management. Practitioners also answered questions on the helpfulness of medical cannabis in treating a variety of symptoms. So survey practitioners found that cannabis or medical cannabis was very helpful in treating insomnia, pain, and loss of appetite. And that pain, again, draws back to one of the top 10 most reported needs or reasons for certifying for medical cannabis. And when asked about risk and benefits from medical cannabis use, most practitioners felt that there are significant physical and mental health benefits to using medical cannabis, but in that same vein, over half reported that medical cannabis could also pose possible physical and mental health risk at the same time. Okay. You have a question? Oh, okay. Sorry. All right. So again, this survey was implemented in February, and I know Isaac just gave us some great feedback and updates on new portal, new information coming out. So just keep that in mind when we kind of dive into information about practitioners using the portal right now. So most practitioners found that the current MCP portal was accessible and easy to use, although 35% disagreed or felt neutral, unsure. And only 37% of practitioners felt that the CCA's website has all the medical cannabis program information that they need. Okay. So despite the last slide saying only 37% of practitioners felt that the CCA website had all the MCP information they need, the CCA website tied with medical seminars as the second most accessed source for general medical cannabis information. And then 20% of practitioners reported that scientific articles was their primary source of medical cannabis information. In this next slide, practitioners were asked what medical cannabis resources or information would be most beneficial to them. The three most beneficial resources were outlined as continuing medical education courses on medical cannabis, links to articles or reports about medical cannabis that are publicly available to them on our website, information on understanding medical cannabis dosing and recommendations. And once more, these findings highlight the interest in more accessible and especially evidence-based educational resources for practitioners that are in the program. Okay. So in this policy and training question, we just asked for just general opinions on policy and training amongst practitioners. So according to these policy statements and these results, a majority of practitioners favored program registrations for the purpose of tracking program participants. And I'll remind everyone that registration is optional for patients and practitioners. They can still issue paper copies for now if they wish, even though we're trying to move that. But 59% of practitioners agreed that patients should be required to register with the MCP, and then 64% agreed that practitioners themselves should be required to register. And the Virginia MCP doesn't require medical cannabis related training or a standardized number of training hours to certify patients for medical cannabis use. And that is kind of reflected where in the survey, 33% of practitioners reported never receiving medical cannabis specific related training prior to certifying for medical cannabis. However, practitioners who have received medical cannabis related training did give us information on what trainings they used, as well as the type. So 74% completed their training online in a virtual classroom, and an average completed about 17 hours, but as a mode, so most completed only 2 hours.
Procedures around that, that require training or certification, or is that governed by statute?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something that we can do, and we covered in recommendations. And I think Sean also wants to shine some light on it.
A lot of other states, they include requirements as a prerequisite to the registration process. And since there's no longer a registration process, we have a little bit more limited authority over the practitioners. But we are working on plans to develop optional training, and this will come up more in the recommendations too, but building more partnerships with providers of continuing medical education to help, build in options there.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should require some sort of ongoing training. I mean, you see that obviously medical practitioners have to do that. Even HR professionals have, and attorneys, as you know, have ongoing training. So I think it's a good practice.
I agree with Neil. And at a minimum, I think that we should be requiring the nurses to have training. I mean, the nurses don't go through the extensive training that doctors go through. But I think that we should at least, and not to be discriminatory, but there is a different level of education required for those two industries.
I mean, it is APRN, so they go through more training than the standard RNs. And so I think that, across the board, it's obviously an area where people are interested and craving training. So we want to, again, we're not the regulatory body, unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but we're not the regulatory body for the medical or nursing practitioners, but we can try to build those partnerships to improve the availability, and maybe even if they have the authority, they can say within their own regulations or procedures require it.
Any more questions? Okay, so continuing with training, as Sean mentioned too, there does seem to be a majority desire for more training and standardization. So 67% again of practitioners have received training, and 65% of practitioners agreed or strongly agreed that the medical cannabis training should be required prior to certifying patients. And I know Sean mentioned looking into optional options in the future. And practitioners who reported that they do support a medical cannabis training requirement, they said that on average, the training should be about 7 hours. But again, so practitioners are expressing kind of that need and support for a registration process and a standardization that could ensure further accountability and consistency across the program. Okay, moving on to overall satisfaction of practitioners in the survey. So 73% of respondents are very satisfied or satisfied with the current state of medical cannabis. So it's about 20% higher than patients reported feeling about the medical cannabis program. Reasons for dissatisfaction amongst practitioners were generally about the need for legal and policy reform surrounding medical cannabis and the need for improved patient access to medical cannabis in Virginia. Practitioners were also asked what just they personally felt was the most rewarding aspects of participating in the Virginia Medical Cannabis Program. And they reported them as helping patients' overall quality of life, the opportunity to provide patients with alternative treatment options, and giving patients access to medical grade products. So in this last visual, all practitioners were asked in a free response box to describe general improvements they would like to see within the Virginia MCP. Responses were coded and cross-referenced with a rubric to identify common themes, and consistent with previous responses throughout this presentation and within the report. These themes were seen as upgrades to the online certification process, increase in educational resources for both practitioners and patients. And I know we just touched on it a little bit, but after going through our survey findings, through our report, we did infer about 5 recommendations to improve the program based off of the practitioner responses. And I'll go through these just in bullets, but again, you can read the full list of recommendations and explanations within the report. So our first recommendation, we would like to collaborate in the development of cannabis-specific continuing medical education training for MCP practitioners, which was expressed throughout the survey. So again, this would look like establishing partnerships with the Board of Medicine and Nursing to provide, further opportunities for practitioners to obtain more knowledge needed to address patient needs. Our second recommendation being providing medical cannabis training or coursework for practitioners who issue written certifications in Virginia. Again, developing trainings for practitioners in consultation with boards of medicine and nursing, or through partnerships with higher education institutions, including medical schools. Our third recommendation, increasing the number of educational resources and information targeted just towards practitioners. So the CCA, alongside practitioners and other stakeholders, could collaborate to provide practitioner-specific resources to post publicly to ensure quality care is given to patients once practitioners access that information. Our fourth recommendation, addressing system issues with the current MCP written certification portal. So addressing any issues experienced by practitioners will only enhance the system's efficiency and also our own relationship between practitioners and the CC as a whole. And our last recommendation, assessing ways to engage more practitioners within the medical cannabis program. So this is similar to something that we had in the patient survey, where we can conduct a more in-depth assessment to learn more perspectives on how to further improve the program, as this particular practitioner survey only captured current practitioners. So not practitioners in Virginia who don't certify for medical cannabis, and also those who once did but no longer do. And as I've been mentioning throughout, this presentation and the report online is a summary. It's not exhaustive. Our report is online under our reports tab on our website. And if you needed any information or anyone in the public, they can always request data from our data request form or email us for more data or analysis. And I'll welcome any questions if anyone has any.
Questions for Hannah?
I have a random question.
Go ahead, Mike.
So, and anybody can answer again. So when I was in judges school last week, somebody found out I was on this board and thought I was thought I was an expert, and clearly found out I was not. So they asked me, and I had no idea, when you get certified to use medical cannabis, does it affect your ability to carry a concealed weapon? Yes. I didn't know. Did we do anything with educating the public on that?
We do have some fact sheets around topics like cannabis use and ownership. I don't know that they specifically address the medical cannabis issue.
It's either in our cannabis laws in Virginia or it's in our general FAQs. That's not on an actual principal fact sheet,
Oh,
but it is on our website.
That's a big deal.
It is.
That's a huge deal. I mean, if I don't know it and I do criminal cases every day, I imagine the public has no idea. So people could be carrying and not know that it's illegal. I mean, I would have if I had one.
How do I get rid of my certification? That's the primary reason people ask to get rid of their certification is because they're concerned about that conflict.
Okay.
We don't do that.
And just a little follow-up on your recommendations. I do fully concur with this continuing collaborating for cannabis-specific education, because it is concerning to me, and I think to many others, that 35% of those respondents have no type of medical cannabis experience or training, but they're giving out these the registrations.
Yeah,
The-
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And again,
I
it does seem
appreciate-
generally like most practitioners do want at least the option, if not requirement, for additional training and
Yeah, I
information.
understand there's only 19% responding out of the 272, but that is concerning that it's still, if 35%, I thought that was quite a high number for not having any type of medical cannabis background.
I had, Mr. Chair, I had a couple more questions, if that's okay.
Yes.
So I think, we may have talked about this previous board meetings, but I think at some point we should do like a secret shop, not just certification, but also at the dispensary level. Like if you think about it, Virginia ABC does that, right? They do undercover, operations. Even if you go get a state license for your car, right? Your state inspection, they do your periodic undercover just to see what people are approving and what they're not. So I think that's a best practice that has some precedent if we can look at that. The other question I had was around the data. Obviously there's people are getting prescribed this product. I assume that it's covered by HIPAA, like
Receiving
the
a written
prescriptions, the
certification.
prescription from the patient information.
Yeah, so everything is under HIPAA. So especially when Isaac kind of covered, the unique patients and dispositions, we only get that number. And then PMP holds that they're the ones that are kind of more impacted because they have ownership of that data. So they're the
Okay.
ones that are mostly impacted.
So we don't have any patient names or information?
No.
Because that was my main question. Main questions were on the data breach risk. If the CCA is
Yeah.
holding any of that
We do not
patient
hold any of
data.
it.
One of the motivating factors around updating our systems is because we've built into the contracting process increased levels of data security for our new vendors.
So do we have that data right now on our system, or is it housed somewhere else?
It's not within the system we're currently using, but we're moving on from that system.
Okay. I think we want to make sure that, we don't have any risk there, of course. Thank you.
Further questions for Hannah? All right. Thank you, Hannah, very much. A great presentation. And next we'll have our budget update with Jamie.
Good afternoon. So, just a little update about budget. This is the chart that you're used to seeing. It's got the top table is general fund and the bottom table is non-general fund. For CCA, that bottom table represents MCP specific money, and the top is general operations. So we're tracking along pretty well. You'll see in my next slide that I'm going to ask you for a modification. But everything's going pretty much according to plan with a few minor tweaks. We still are having the issue that I've mentioned before with the Department of Accounts and the Department of Planning and Budget, where they have not completed the transfer that they need to complete to allow us access to the fund in the bottom table. So we show you this table based on how the expenditure should be and what we've been tracking. But if you actually looked at the statewide accounting system, they're all reflected in the top right now. And that'll get fixed when they approve the transaction, and they are working on it. And we just got an update last week, but it has not been completed yet. So just to point out, you will see in the general fund table for equipment, we are slightly over our budget by 6.5%. If you'll remember, when the board approved our FY25 budget, you gave us a variance authority for 10%. So we're going to come back to you today and ask for a modification so that we can spend a little bit more in that category. You'll also see that we're close in the contractual services in the second table. And that would cover things like construction or building upgrades. It covers some software services and a few other legal services, a few things like that. And we're also getting close in equipment in the non-general fund section. Again, non-general fund for our CCA means MCP. So what we've done in this, we've thrown a lot of numbers at you, but I just wanted it to be very clear what we're doing. So we've added this table for you this time that shows what we're projecting for the remaining expenditures for the rest of the year, what we anticipate the total expenditures will be, and where that puts us for remaining budget available. And so as you can see, based on that, we need modifications approved for a couple of areas. So for the general fund side, we want to reduce contractual services. We don't need those funds in that area, and we want to add it to the equipment section. And then on the non-general fund side, we want to reduce personal services, and we want to add that to contractual services and equipment. So I'll give you a little bit of an explanation about what this is doing. Basically, we're saying when we changed over to this building, there were some things that we didn't anticipate the cost of as well and didn't build into the budget. So for example, our space did not have a secure IT closet, and we obviously wanted that to be secure. So we had to pay a contractor to come in and build in that space. There were also some IT equipment upgrades that we weren't anticipating or realized we had a need for later. So some scheduling, equipment, touchpads, and audio-visual things in the conference rooms. So they've increased our need for equipment expenditures in both general fund and non-general fund, because if you think about CCA, we do practice cost accounting here. So everything we buy, we make sure we adequately charge or allocate to both MCP and the general operations. The contractual services on the operating side, we just didn't need as much as we anticipated. And the personal services on the MCP side, we didn't need as much as we anticipated. We're still running one vacancy there. And so that's why we have additional funds. All this said, we will make sure that we take all this into account. We look at what was a one-time thing versus an ongoing thing. And when we come back next month and present to you our FY26 budget for approval, we'll be sure to take into account what we learned from this to make sure that we, project as close as possible to budget. So with that said, the modifications I'm requesting today are reduce contractual services in general fund by 50,000, increase equipment by 50,000. And then in non-general fund, I want to reduce personal services by 120,000, increase contractual services by 110,000, and equipment by 10,000. Doing this doesn't change the bottom line. It's just shuffling between the categories, and we still anticipate we will end the year with funds left over. Are there any questions for me regarding that?
Jamie, on the budget. Okay, at this time, I don't know if I can explain it, but I know you explained what we need to do here is that you need a motion from us because we're moving from one line item to the next line item.
Correct.
Okay, so I entertain that do I have a motion to approve the FY25 budget modifications as presented by Jamie? I have a motion. Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, the FY25 budget modifications have been approved as it was presented by Jamie today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to our public comment period. And I'll read a short statement before I open up the floor for public comment. Let me get the right one here again. He has so many different pieces. The CCA board and staff value public input, of course. People that would like to speak before the board must submit their intentions through the CCA website. This form must be submitted no later than 24 hours before the scheduled board meeting, and comments are limited to 3 minutes. The form also allows the submission of written comments to the board. For today's meeting, we received 2 requests for public comment and 1 written comment. The written comment is available and will be available for viewing on our website. And do I have my first speaker here? Is it Mary Lynn? Mary Lynn? She joined us virtually? Let's see if you can bring Mary Lynn up. As he does that too, is Chip here? I have the first name of Chip. Chip A. Okay.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? This is Mary Lynn. Can you hear me?
Marilyn, if you're with us, you can go ahead and speak.
Can you hear me now? I am speaking. I can't tell if you can hear me. Crap. Well, this is Mary Lynn Mathry. I'm a registered nurse, president and co-founder of Patients Out of Time, which is a nonprofit, Virginia-based
Oh,
nonprofit.
go ahead, Marilyn, with your comment.
Oh, can you hear me now? Shoot, can you hear me?
We're having audio issues. Just one moment. Go ahead with your comment.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
Marilyn, go ahead.
Great, thank you. My name's Mary Lynn Mathry. I'm a registered nurse, master's prepared, president and co-founder of Patients Out of Time, which is a Virginia-based national nonprofit this year celebrating our 30th anniversary. We educate healthcare professionals and the public about the therapeutic use of cannabis. And I did look at the survey findings before listening to this today, the presentation. And I just wanted to let all of you know that Patients Out of Time, we will be holding the 16th National Clinical Conference on Cannabis Therapeutics in Charlottesville this September 14th to 16th. We literally bring the best of the best from literally around the world. Got a speaker from Israel as well as throughout the United States. And the focus on cannabis on this program, we get a lot of public that attend it, but it is geared for healthcare professionals to literally basically help them with education on it. We actually, this year, this is the first year we're actually not having CMEs. We are having continuing education credits for nurses. One of the reasons for not getting the CMEs is they, the board that does the continuing medical education have specific guidelines for cannabis education to accredit. And one of them is, clearly they want research, and that's what we do is research-based education, but they don't want discussions. They will not accredit discussions on dosage and administration. And we find that very frustrating because that's exactly what the clinicians need. It is an herbal medication and they need to understand how to appropriately provide this medication. Anyway, I just wanted you to be aware of this, to see if there's any way you can help facilitate letting the clinicians in Virginia know about this, this conference. I think the education, I agree with the clinicians. It's highly expected. The other thing to note is just last year, the American Nurses Association working, let me back that up. I'm also a past president, first president and co-founder of the American Cannabis Nurses Association. And we worked with the American Nurses Association. And last year, they recognized cannabis nursing as a specialty practice. And that's one of the reasons why we clearly have the continuing education credits for nurses at this point for the conference.
Okay, thank you, Marilyn. Your time is up, but I do appreciate that information that you provided with us today, and we do appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, with that said, if we do not have a Chip A in the room here, okay, and no one online, name of Chip. Okay, I will close the public comment session at this time. And next, I will need to bring the board into closed session. After I read the closed session piece, we will be moving to a different room. You're free to stay in the room here. I'm not too sure how long we're going to be in closed session, so I just said warn you. I just don't know the time frame we'll be in closed session. But at this time, I will read the statement to convene the board of directors into a closed meeting. I move that the Virginia Cannabis Control Authority convene a closed meeting under the Freedom of Information Act to discuss matters lawfully exempted under the open meeting requirements under the following exemption: consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation, which is found under Virginia Code 2.2-3711, subsection A7. The following non-members will be in attendance for the closed meeting to reasonably aid in the consideration of this topic. That would be Mr. Jim Flaherty, Jamie Patton, Sean Casey, and Billy Tunner. Do I have a motion to bring us into closed session? Do I have a second? I'm sorry?
Billy's not here. He won't be participating.
Okay. Okay, so Billy Tunner would not be here for our closed meeting at this time. Do I have a motion to bring us into closed session? Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, at this time, we'll be moving to a room for our closed session. I do appreciate you all being here. And again, that you can stay in here if you'd like, but I'm unsure how long we'll be in closed session. Thank you for your time. Take care. At this time, I'll read a statement to bring the Board of Directors out of a closed session. Whereas the Virginia Cannabis Control Authority has convened a closed meeting on this pursuant to the affirmative recording vote in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas 2.2-3712 subsection D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the CCA hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia laws were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies. And two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion were convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the CCA. Do I have a motion to bring us out of closed session?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor? All opposed? Okay, with that being said, we are out of closed session and open session. And Jamie, anything else reference our agenda? Okay, with that being said, with no further business to be conducted, I conclude that the CCA Board Direction meeting is hereby adjourned. And I see our next meeting date is June 18th, I believe. June 18th.